careful about handling all the objections before we got there.
We've just automatically connected our entire organization with that client.
All right, well, it is 9:01, so we had an appointment at 9 o'clock, so we were going to get this party started. I know that people are going to continue to join us for this morning's Masters Series event. So once again, thank you guys all for joining us. We have agents tuning in from our 5 brokerages here in the state of Oregon, as well as placing from across the country. For those of you who are new to our Masters Series, a couple of years ago, our leaders asked what was the one thing that we could do to bring the highest amount of value to our agents, and out of that, the Master Series was born. And we brought the best teachers, instructors, agents, and coaches from across the country to pour into our agents and to not only in our brokerages, but in our local market and industry. So we are so excited for today's event, which is truly focusing on the topic of the moment in our extreme low listing inventory world. So we've got 2 masters on the line. But before we do that, you know that we do not succeed alone. We are blessed to be in business with incredible business partners that are there every step of the way with us and have been just a blessing to us as we have grown together in business. So today I would like to open it up to our amazing power partners and sponsors. We're going to welcome to the call Miss Betty Carter, the Vice President of Sales for Fidelity National Home Warranty.
Our listing coverage. It's free, and it covers repairs or replacements of major systems and appliances under our standard coverage, but it can also be upgraded to add heating and air conditioning, as well as even more coverage with our comprehensive option. Kevin, Andrea, and Lisa are each going to give you a quick tip on how to use our listing coverage to grow your business and to provide valuable coverage for your sellers. So over to you, Kevin, to start us off.
Well, good morning, everybody. One of the things that I used to do a lot more before COVID was to teach classes. And I had an agent come up to me and she says, Kevin, I was listening to your class and I got a listing from what you were saying. And I go, oh, tell me about it. And she said, well, I was one of 3 people being interviewed for this listing. And she said that I brought it up, if you do choose to list with me today, part of my superior service is that I will make sure that your home has a warranty on it while it's listed. Well, the other agents never brought that up. And the sellers liked that because that way they wouldn't have to worry about a major repair while the home was on the market. And she got the listing because of that. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're across the table from those potential sellers to bring up the fact that nothing needs to be filled out. I can just turn on a complimentary listing coverage while it's on the market, and the other agent might not bring that up.
You know?
Yeah, I'm done.
So now that you have your listing and now that you have a home warranty on that property, if anything goes wrong with the system or appliance on that property while it's listed and the home warranty repairs it, you are going to be a hero. I literally, in the last week, have had 2 instances. One was a dishwasher, one was a hot water heater. The dishwasher situation, the seller had already moved out of state, so they were not able to deal with the situation. The hot water heater, the seller absolutely did not have funds to replace it. We took care of both instances. We replaced the dishwasher, we replaced the hot water heater. You guys, I've seen it happen so many times with electrical, air conditioners, furnaces. It literally can be a deal saver if something happens while that property is on the market. We are actually going to be doing a Zoom class next week, all about listing coverage, how it works, why it works, how it can benefit you and help you grow your business. You'll be receiving an invitation via email, so please join us if you're interested. Thank you. And here's Lisa.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks again for having us all. Just wrapping this whole thing up, I wanted to make sure you were aware, if you weren't already, that we have some amazing marketing pieces. And specifically, we have some marketing pieces that are linked and guided for you, for your potential sellers. And so please be sure, and they're personalized and they're free to you. But I did want to wrap this whole conversation up with, again, with our sellers coverage. But most people don't realize, most realtors don't know that there was a study done recently that showed when you are providing a home warranty with the sale of the home, that home sells for, on average, $2,300 more than the same home without the home warranty being a part of the sale. Excuse me. It also sells for faster by 16%. So, you know, I've had deals, I'm having a deal right now where it's the 11th hour, the hot water heater failed, and we are replacing it. There's not even any out-of-pocket cost to anybody. Everybody is thrilled and the deal is closing. So just keep in mind that we've got this product for you. Most people don't realize that the details of it. If you ever, even if you're on your way to a listing appointment and you're wanting to mention it, but you're just not quite sure how, feel free to reach out to any one of us and we will quickly give you just a little snapshot of what to say on your listing appointments to make everybody more comfortable with the deal and to provide more business for you. So thanks again for having us, you guys.
Thank you guys for being such incredible power partners, adding value to our agents every single day and giving them one more tool in their tool belt. We will also include information on the upcoming class and the resources they mentioned in our wrap-up email today, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. And without any further ado, we are going to turn this over to the main event and our amazing moderator and OP, Chris Suarez, to introduce our panelists. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks, Lizzie. All right, guys. Well, first and foremost, thanks for everyone for showing up, and certainly didn't show up for me, but showed up for Lance and Peter today. I'm going to start by telling you just a little bit about their businesses. And before I do that, I think what's pretty awesome, and for all of us to get clear on, is you're going to meet two very, very normal human beings today. And I think sometimes when we look at business numbers, we separate ourselves from the people doing that business because their business looks so different than ours or so much bigger than ours. I'll share with you that both of these gentlemen run businesses truly bigger than any business that's happening in our network right now. And the reason to talk through these things with them today is both of them have focused always truly on a listing-based business. And our biggest opportunity in our marketplace here in this across the state of Oregon right now is listing inventory as we hover between 1 to 1.5 months of inventory across all of our markets. But knowing these guys personally, what I'll share with you is they're no different than you, right? No matter where you are in your business, you know, as amazing as you guys are, right? These guys are no more energetic than you, are no more engaging than you, are no more brilliant than you. Like they're normal humans, and you'll see that as we talk through that, talk with them. I mean, and I think that's important for us to not have this gap between who am I and who's Lance, and who am I and who's Peter. And so you'll get that. Now, with that said, they are normal humans running abnormal businesses, and truly, right? Like, you know, just as way of review, Peter, you know, Lance has been here to our network before. This is an introduction for you to our network, and you run one of the biggest and truly best businesses in the country, right? Year to date, you've already closed or pended 334 homes, like 81 million in volume, already over 2 million in GCI. What I love about your business, it is truly based on, if I could say one thing that you're known for, it's customer service experience, right? It's the experience that the customer receives, and we're gonna sort of unpackage that as we go. What is also of note is you've almost surpassed everything you did last year. In fact, closed and pended in terms of volume, you're beyond what you did last year. Closed and pended in GCI, you're beyond what you did last year. So we're gonna talk about why and how that happened.
Sure.
And then just a brief intro for those of you who don't know Lance. Lance, you know, what I think is so powerful for people to understand is we hear of or get to know Lance today and your business today. But what most don't realize is your business started in 2011, probably one of the fastest scaled real estate companies, because that's what you are, a company of anyone that I've ever seen, truly. Last year you did over, 620 somewhat million in sales in one city, right? In your home city of Houston. You're the number one real estate team business in the state of Texas, not just Houston. And you went, right? Your business has been in existence for 8 years, and now you have a real estate business that is about 88 members strong. And for you, I would say, if there's one thing that you're known for, it's internal culture of your organization. So I want, as we discuss kind of where your businesses have come from and what they look like, for us to weave in this conversation of customer experience, because that's who you are, Peter, and internal culture of your organization, Lance, because that's who you are. Is that cool?
Totally.
Absolutely. Yes.
Awesome. So why don't we start? We're gonna just have a conversation, guys. This is unrehearsed. That's how I run every one of these sessions, and that's because I believe that we all learn and grow by having real conversations and understanding what's winning and what's not, or what's working and what's not. So Lance, maybe I can ask you to start and maybe just tell us a little bit about your team and your organizational model. Clearly it's a big organizational model, but how does that look and how is that broken up today?
Sure. And thank you first and foremost for having us on again today. And this is an awesome privilege and an honor. When we started the business of the Loken Group back in 2011, the entire mentality from day one was to build a business and build an organization. And so with that mentality, also coming from a retail background, I wanted to have departments within our organization. So we have a listing department, we have a buyer department, an inside sales department, a success team, which is where our transaction coordinators reside. And we call them our success team because they're the glue that makes everything work. And without them, we're nothing. We also have our ops/photographer team, our marketing department, and our staging consultation. So everybody's in their individual departments. We also have a luxury division, which is all under the umbrella of the Loken Group. But it all starts with that business mindset from day one.
Okay, awesome. And as I look at the size of your organization, do you happen to know roughly how many are the sales team and how many are in operations or support?
Sure. So it'd be 38 are in the production team, and then the remaining are in support. So that'd be 50 or 51.
Okay. Awesome. Guys, I think that's an interesting thing to note, that his operational talent surpasses his sales talent. It's a very small, truly small sales team for the volume that you're doing. What I like about your business is you have a high agent, right, per agent productivity, which our network talks about a lot. So we're gonna talk about why and how that works. Peter, how about you? What does your organization look like?
Sure. We have 3 listing specialists. We have 8 agents. We have 1 senior agent, 1 mastery agent, which we can talk about if it's relevant. Our agents list and represent buyers. Director of operations, 3 success managers, similar to Lance's concept of a success manager, that they really drive the customer's experience, kind of the backbone of the organization. Courier, 1.5 VAs, a director of talent, and myself.
Okay.
And sorry, of those 8 agents, 2 of them are part of an investment property division, similar to Lance's luxury division.
Okay. So 6 are kind of in your retail or the real estate side, and 2 are in the
correct. Yep.
Okay. Awesome.
And Chris, by the way, I love that word that you just said, because I truly believe that we're all in a retail business. Our commodity is really big, but we are all in a retail business, and we emulate Peter's business model because he's so focused on client experience, and that's what we're trying to get to. So.
Peter, maybe we can just jump in. I've talked about you being sort of recognized as customer experience. You've taught that. You've built courses around that. Has it always been that way? And if not, when did that focus begin? And how has that grown the listing side of the business specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is completely accidental. Whereas Lance started off very intentional about his company, I started off very much accidental and ego-driven. And so I built a machine that was focused on my talents and my ego. And I started in Cincinnati where I knew nobody. And I'm very transactional behaviorally. So, and I got started really during the Great Recession. And so my options were expireds or expireds. And I got really good at expireds to build a business. And for me, doing a great job and being a great fiduciary was outperforming the market on behalf of my clients, and I got good at that. I did not treat them well in the process. I mean, I did a great job. I outperformed the market, but I didn't treat them well as people. And when our business grew at least 25% a year, in 2014, we did 191 deals. In 2015, we did 192. And so it was the first time we'd ever underperformed the market, Chris, which was completely unacceptable to me. So I finally broke down and listened to my coach and said, I'll make these stupid database phone calls. And found out when I was making these database phone calls that people weren't super psyched to hear from me. So I wasn't going to grow my business from repeat and referral until I figured out where the customer experience could be improved. Let me rephrase that. Create a positive customer experience instead of the default, an intentional positive versus the unintentional negative that I had been creating. I couldn't ask for referrals until I started doing a better job. So that was how I made the switch to customer experience. We spent a year focusing the first half of the year on retooling the customer experience, and the second half of the year doing a real 36 touch. And in 2016, we did 256 sales. So that was a 33% increase in business. It was $480,000 more in GCI. We did it with 2 less salespeople and no incremental increase in marketing spend.
So let me unpackage that real quick.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing is clearly you're a numbers guy.
Yes.
You like business. You approach it pretty transactionally, naturally. Like, hey, how am I going to grow this? How am I going to hit this goal?
Yep.
And yes, there's people around you, but that isn't your first natural. Let's all get together, build this culture, and by building the culture, the business will grow.
Correct. And
okay.
And what happened was, I think that all of us in our journey, in our professional journeys, the first thing we need to do is play to our strengths as much as possible, because that's the fastest way to grow. And then we're all going to hit that, we call it a ceiling of achievement, right? And there's a bunch of different ways to break through it. But at some point in time, you're going to max out on incremental or 1% adjustments to your strengths. And you're going to have to figure out how to work with and grow with your weaknesses. Because if you hammer on strengths all the time and you're hammering, everything looks like a nail, at some point in time, you cannot go any further until you add another tool to your tool belt. And part of that certainly is done by working with talent that complements your strengths. But another part of it is recognizing that your business will never grow more than you do personally. And you've got to do some personal development around your weaknesses if you want to continue to grow. Or if you're having the same failure over and over again, which was what I was experiencing.
Okay. What's interesting as well is your business grew naturally because you worked hard and you were just naturally good at what you did to a point. And it would have gone that when I look at that 2015, 191 to 192, that was going to be the breaking point. You probably would have begun to go backwards or not even leveled and gone forward, because sales is service. And if the service wasn't there, if the experience wasn't there, statistics say that 70% of clients will not choose you based on the experience that they had or they think they're going to have. And so at a certain point in time, you've been the number 1 team in Cincinnati since 2013, but as big as Cincinnati is, it's small when the service isn't good. Fair?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly right. And so, and just to add something to that, Chris, if you're not if your heart and your brain aren't in alignment on the importance of service and the importance of people, it's just going to come across as lip service and actually going to be counterproductive. You really have to want to help people and do a good job. And as leaders, whether our leader is a one-person business or we're leading a small sales team, if people don't understand that the commitment to service and to commitment to people that you have is real, you're never going to build a culture that sustains in your absence. And I think that's what Lance has done so incredibly well, is scaling culture. And it's the thing I'm most jealous about his business.
Okay. So really quick, Peter, percentage of your business coming from listings?
54%.
Okay. And Lance, do you know roughly percentage of the business that's listing side for you?
59%.
Okay. One thing I want to share, I have not talked with one person this year that is ahead, and both of you guys are ahead of where they were last year without having more, right? Being at 50% or greater on the listing side. It's a challenging year, but those that are ahead of goal or ahead of where they were in 2019, every single one of them is at 50% or greater on the listing side. I have yet to see someone that has increased their business while having a buyer's business at greater than 50% of their business. So Lance, at 59% of your business coming from listings, where are those sellers coming from? And has it looked differently in 2020, given, right, COVID, and in light of all of our changes, shifts, right, whether it be health or political or you know, emotional? Does it look different than it did in 2019?
Absolutely, it does. And it's pretty interesting. 32% of our business last year came from radio and television or media, and 26% of our business came from our data bank. Yep. And then 24% came from new construction. This year, fast forward to today, 30.4% of our business is now from our data bank, 24% of our business is from radio and television, and 19% is coming from new construction. So it's been a pretty gigantic shift in where the business is coming from. And we shut off all of media for the months of February, March, April, and May, because people were sitting at home or beginning to sit at home. And we knew that they weren't going to be listening to their radio at home. They were probably going to be listening to social media and not driving to work. So we shifted our marketing to focus on our data bank and calling everybody in our data bank. We have about 74,000 people that we need to call on a regular basis. And so our inside sales agents were making those calls every single day. And during the pandemic, we needed to make care calls instead of buying and selling calls.
So 4 months out of the 8 months thus far in the year, you had no media spend. Yet your data bank business grew 26% to 30%. It didn't stay stable. What do you take away from that? What do you learn from that? Why do you think the business has shifted? Is it attention? Is it spend? Is it the way people are doing business? I respect you as a thoughtful business person. What is your interpretation of those numbers?
Well, the biggest thing is, I believe that just like what happened back in Hurricane Harvey in 2017, when the business literally shut down for over 3 weeks because people couldn't even drive, you know, in the neighborhood, we were making those care calls back then. And because we were so intentional on doing the exact same thing this time around, I believe that we got back to really honing into our data bank and generating business from our data bank. And now when we recently brought back media, radio and television, it's only been about a month that we've been back on the radio, and we're just starting back on television. The cool thing is we have everybody's headspace in. Now we're going to add to the business instead of diversify the business back again. We're going to maintain and even grow the data bank above 30% because we know that that's where the money really is. And once we spend the money to get a client, we call them forever clients. because you're investing in them so much to get them. We need to do a really good job of keeping them. And that's why we have completely shifted our business model, and our theme for next year's planning advance is be exceptional and show that exceptional client experience.
Awesome. So for those of you sitting at home thinking, well, gosh, I'm not going to do radio, right? Like I'm not able to do that. Interestingly enough, 30% of Lance's business came from, right? You call it database, he calls it data bank for a very strategic reason, and rightly so. 30% of that business is ultimately bigger than most people ever want their business to be anyway. So media and marketing is for continued growth and future growth in your business, Lance. The now business is all coming. The majority of that now business is coming in your world from that data bank, correct?
That is absolutely correct. And now our focus is on creating that exceptional client experience to take us to the next level, to not only bring in new clients, but to retain the clients that we currently have.
Okay. Peter.
Yep.
Where are your listings coming from? And any unique opportunities during this time that has shown up as sellers that have raised their hands or you've uncovered that we might be able to learn from?
Yeah, 45% of our business comes from repeat and referral, which we're pretty happy about. We'd like to see that over 50. Our team in general is 55% repeat and referral. So that means that we're generating more repeat and referral business on the buy side than on the list. So that's an opportunity for us. And we've just started training in the last month or so on asking specifically for seller referrals and not just any referral when we're on the phone talking to our clients during our database phone calls. So that's the first thing that we're doing differently. You know, you're at I think you said you're at 1.5 months of inventory.
Yeah.
We're at 22 days.
Mm.
So it's just critical that you be asking for the listing lead right now, to your point, in order to grow the business. The second thing, our second source of lead is referrals from a builder that we work with, consumers that need to sell their home in order to buy a new home. And 11% is radio, media. What we found is that our for sale by owner and expired lead source has contracted significantly over the last 18 to 24 months. This whole game, you talked about now business, this whole game, especially on the listing side, is around fishing further upstream. And that's what we talk a lot is getting to lead sources where you can fish further upstream. And the 3 sources that I think are the best for fishing upstream are repeat and referral, right? Let's keep that fish in your pond, don't let them out. The second one would be circle prospecting around success stories that you're having in the market. And we're starting that well, technically in September, we're starting it. And gosh, I just drew a blank on fishing further upstream. It was repeat and referral, circle prospecting, and the other one will come to me and farming. Those are the 3 ways you can fish further upstream. Now, a lot of those take a little bit more time to cultivate the lead. But I'm not convinced that this tight sellers market is going to end as quickly as I originally thought. I think that the CARES Act actually had a lot more impact than I thought it would. I think an incumbent president is going to do whatever they can to continue to maintain the economy through the election cycle. And I also think with interest rates continuing to drop, there's no reason for buyers to walk away from these prices, right? In Cincinnati, the average sales price is up 10% over last year, but the average mortgage is down 20%. It's actually cheaper to buy a house today for 10% more than it was a year ago. So I don't, unless all the employment that's going on actually catches up, I don't think this is ending in 60 to 90 days. I think sometime in 2021. And so fishing upstream matters more.
So you look at over 300 homes, right, closed or pended for your group already this year.
Yep.
Those listings, and you're in a market with 22 days of inventory. Has your message had to change in the database? As FSBOs and expireds just aren't there.
Yeah.
What have your agents done in their messaging to get sellers at least thinking about working with you or putting their home on the market?
With database phone calls specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah. So having lived through the Great Recession, I saw how very quickly everything turned upside down. And when the stay-at-home order was issued in Cincinnati on March 20th, and very soon thereafter, unemployment was hitting, 20%. And by the way, in the Great Recession, the highest we ever got as a country was 9.9%. Like there was huge, huge urgency around getting your own home on the market right now before the impact of unemployment caught up with home values. And so we hammered hard, really, really hard in second half of March, April, and all of May to get people on the market right now, because we didn't know what to expect out of the market, but we knew right now we were at this, what we believed to be the apex of value and demand. Nobody knew how coronavirus stay-at-home order and the pandemic was going to impact the market, but we did know that homes were at an all-time high in Cincinnati. And so we were on the phones really, really aggressively, talking to listing leads, talking to Sphere that we knew that was going to list in the spring, and we were getting on the market earlier to lock in the equity they had before something that we had never experienced since 1917 had ever happened again, right? Mm-hmm. So it was just high intensity and high urgency and high education around the reality of the moment as we understood it.
Yeah. Another takeaway that I wrote down, as we talk about swimming upstream or getting in front of the potential client.
Fishing upstream, yeah.
Yeah, fishing upstream. The interesting thing about you connecting with the builder, it wasn't even necessarily for, and I'm sure part of that is just like Lance, is the new construction listing. But it's those buyers that want that new home that have a home to sell. And I think that is a missed opportunity for many of us. We have hundreds and hundreds of buyers right now because of the interest rates, and they're sitting home and they're looking at new property and they're thinking about something bigger or something with more space. And yet we look at them as buyers and we forget to look at them as potential sellers. How has that affected your business, Lance? Is that a segment of your business? I know you do so much new construction. How has that helped you on the retail side of real estate for sellers?
Correct. What we've done differently these past 2 years is when we started the business, we wanted every listing possible, whether it was new construction or regular resale, because it was giving us exposure. Now, fast forward 8 years, we now have the exposure, so we don't care as much about having the listings. We still care about them, but where we're going in now is we're going in to meet all the sales counselors and saying, hey, when somebody comes in to look to purchase a home, please refer us as the potential listing agent for them so that we can help them sell their home and then go buy that new construction piece. And so we're always looking at how we can get a listing from the buyers in that buyer business. In fact, we just started a new campaign, and we're going after buyers right now. It's not costing us much of anything, and we're getting hundreds of leads because there are so many buyers out there. And we're asking every single one of them, do you have a home to sell? Because that's a back way of getting listings. Just like Peter was saying. I mean, I can't believe Peter's at 22 days. I thought our numbers were pretty drastic. We're down 26.6% in active listings right now, and we're up in Houston 39.8% in pendings. So, and it's been constant. We display these numbers on a weekly basis because the numbers have gotten larger and larger. This is disparity, and our inside sales agents are calling every single person and saying, hey, this is what's happening in the market. If you're even thinking about getting your home on the market, you need to do it now because there's so many buyers available.
Yeah. What I love about that statement is sometimes the thought of finding a seller is exhausting, right? Because we're like, where do I even go? Like there aren't FSBOs, there's no expires, there's no one that seemingly has their hand raised saying, please sell my house. I want to sell my house because look at your inventory. No one wants to sell their house. Yet there are plenty of buyers. If we shift our conversation with every single one of those buyers, those are the agents that are finding the sellers or realizing one step always typically has to come before the second step. So go out and campaign for buyers, but strategically, it seems like a buyer ad, right? It seems like a Facebook ad into command for buyers, but it's really this buyer has to be a future seller.
Yep, current, or even a current seller, you know, because they may be living in a home. And so it's just, you have to go where the market is dictating. And right now, we're in an extreme seller's market. So go after the opposite. Go after those buyers that potentially need to sell those homes.
So Lance, let me ask you this. Has your listing presentation changed? Has your conversation with the seller or the listing strategy, is it different than it was a year ago?
It's absolutely much more data driven. And because people don't understand that if you listen to the radio and you listen to the television, it is gloomy out there and it is really rough. In reality, there's things happening and they're happening at a high level. And if you don't look at your numbers on a daily basis, you would have no idea. You'd be going, oh yeah, I'm kind of busy right now, but the magnitude is just gigantic. So our inside sales agents, our listing agents, they're using the data to convert. And before we were using our wonderful marketing materials and that got us by. But now today, data is really driving it.
Interesting. Partly that's because if you have that limited inventory, a seller's perspective is, hey buddy, you're probably not going to need all that fancy marketing. This is going to last for about 2 weeks. It's not even going to execute it. So to land the listing, the data is what's driving decisions. Would you agree with that?
I do 100%.
Do you see that changing in the future? Do you think you'll always have a data-driven listing presentation now, or what's your thoughts on that?
So we have always had data in play, but we've definitely
important piece of our
conversations. And at the end of the day, what I think, and Peter will probably talk to this at a great level, if you provide an exceptional client experience, you're going to spend most of your time listening to the client and what they have to say versus us talking. And if we can find their motivation and hone into the motivation behind why they need to sell, that's going to be the overall factor and what's going to get us converted.
Got it. Yep. Peter, how about your listing presentation? Anything you find that seller, you have the opportunity to talk to them. Are you saying anything different? Has anything changed for you?
Yeah, very much so. We're also very data driven. I think all three of us are data personalities. So data matters. A small piece of data followed by a story we found is the most impactful way to use data. Too much data can drown somebody. So a couple pieces of data and a story that illustrates it is a lot more, people can learn a lot more quickly from it, and it becomes a more emotional connection to the numbers.
What's a story? What does that mean to you in a presentation?
A story would be, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can see that, in your market segment, the average, we've got a month and a half worth of absorption rate. The average days on market right now is 10 days. So we know that if we don't have an offer within 10 days, we probably need to adjust our price. In fact, I was just having this conversation with the client. We'd been on the market for 10 days. They chose a price higher than we really thought was the right amount, but we decided to try it. At 10 days, we'd have 12 offers and we didn't have a showing. We reduced it to 5% to where we thought it should be, and they had 6 offers within 24 hours. That's a story to illustrate a data point. It just helps them connect with the numbers, because we do this all day long, and they just need the story to make the connection emotionally. Because emotion buys, right?
Yep. What else has changed?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, what else has changed for you?
Yeah, the big thing for us, Chris, was when we were taking listings over Zoom for about 3 months, 2.5 months, Zoom fatigue is real, and people's attention span really kind of dwindles after like an hour. I've struggled to stay connected for more than an hour on a Zoom. So we needed to accelerate the speed with which we were converting these listing appointments. So the first thing that we did was we cut our listing presentation. I actually counted the pages from 30 pages down to 2. And then we got really intentional about handling all the objections before we got there. So we filmed a video about how we handle coronavirus pandemic. We sent a brochure on how we handled coronavirus pandemic. And then we also filmed a video that did the entire listing presentation in 16 minutes by me. And all this information was sent to the prospect as soon as you booked the appointment. And we had them confirm like 3 times they're going to watch these videos before we Zoomed. That way, we could just skip. We did 2 trial closes. If those both checked, then we went straight to pricing and did the paperwork over the Zoom, and we were able to do a listing appointment in about 40 minutes. And that increased our Zoom conversion rates because we weren't wasting time talking about us.
In those 28 pages that are no longer there.
Yeah. Which, by the way, was a complete ripoff from Lance's stuff. Lance, you'll be happy to hear I've now ripped off Jeff Glover, so I've moved on from you, buddy.
There you go.
So the 28 pages, what fell away? Like, or actually, better yet, what is on the 2? Like, what are the 2 pages communicate?
Would you like to see him?
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
All right, let me see if I can do this. Here is the new one. So front page, and this is it just folds open like a calendar. Why can't I scroll down on this thing here? Okay, here's page 1. We talk about the value of working with a team of agents versus a jack of all trades. We talk about the difference in our annual marketing budget, where buyers come from, some quick data on how we outperform the market and how we are more experienced. Some specialty programs that we offer our clients that most agents don't. Our focus on customer experience. And then we talk about TCG Cares, which is our charitable foundation. And then there's a trial close at the bottom. And you just say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what we know is that there's 3 components to selling a home. It's promotion, it's presentation, and it's pricing. We've talked about promotion. We'll talk about presentation here at the end of the evening. If we can figure out the right pricing strategy, are you ready to get started? That's it. That's the whole listing presentation. And then on the back are some testimonials and a tool that we use that we took from Jeff Glover, where if they're not clear on timeline and they need to adjust their price because of their timeline, we'll use this tool to have them work backwards from when they want to be moved. So they understand this is really a 2.5 month process, not a 2.5 week process.
Interesting. Talk us through that real quick.
So let's say the average days on market is 2 months and they want to be moved in, I'll say the average days on market is 30 days. And they want to be moved in 2 months. So they've got 60 days to do this, and the average days on market is 30. So what's today? Let's just use some simple numbers. Let's say today is September 1st, and they want to be moved by October 30th. So what I'll do is in that closing box on the bottom right-hand corner, we'll write in October 30th. And then we'll explain that walkthrough, appraisal, inspection, all of that stuff takes 45 days on average, right, to get a loan approved, especially right now. Okay, well, 45 days plus an average of 30 days on market, so listing goes live. So I'll go back 45 days from October 30th. So in that, where it says accept an agreement, I'll fill in September 15th there, which will be 45 days out from October 30th.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it takes a month to show on average. So then I would back that out to August 15th. And then, and that's second of the 5 boxes. And then I would say it takes about a week or 2 to get your home on the market. So I'd back that out to August 1st. So now they understand visually that they're actually 90 days out and they want to be gone in 60. So now they've got to make sure if it's going to take 2 weeks to get on the market, they only have about 2 weeks to sell it. So now they understand they have to price such that it sells within 2 weeks or less. And they figure that out because we look at the timeline with them.
Yeah, I love that. I actually, and maybe you use it that way, but I'm looking at that timeline and that calendar is blank. You could literally write in the dates that things need to happen.
That's exactly what we do. We flip it over and we write it in with them. Actually, we have them write it in.
Cool. Very cool. Love it. Let me ask you this, Lance. You have been an adopter of technology always, because in order to scale a business, to the size that you have. Like, you need it, right? Technology has to be a part of it. How are you using technology in your listing presentations, perhaps marketing, within the customer experience, any one of those things? What shows up in your world?
First and foremost, we use our computers and do live comps right there with them. So we'll show them properties as they're on the market right this second, and how long the days on market have been, what the last 30 days are. And then we also look at the last 6 months, just because we're in uncharted territory with the amount of business and how quickly it's going. So we truly try to focus on just the last 30 to 60 days. The other big thing is we, by showing them live comps, they realize that we're showing them information as it's happening, instead of bringing a piece of paper and showing them comparables, because that could be a day or a week old. So we're utilizing that. From a client experience perspective, we're always trying to put the client's big why at the top of, we use Trello for our communication internally. So we try to put their big why at the top of the card so that everybody sees that first. We also do the, what's the reason or the motivation behind them selling? What are a couple of key points that we need to make sure that we address throughout the experience? For instance, what if somebody's child had to go to the hospital? Well, if a transaction coordinator picks up the phone and talks to that client, if they ask first and foremost, hey, how's your child doing? Is everything better? We've just automatically connected our entire organization with that client, instead of the client feeling like all we're doing is pawning them off from person to person. So that's been a big piece of our technology as well.
One of the things I'll share, Lance, is we spoke to our brokerage network a bit earlier this month or the previous month about the gold standard, and how the Ritz-Carlton sort of, right, everybody in their world knows this client well. And that the only way we do that is through technology. So technology allows you to provide a better experience, and the better experience for most is just that they matter. The experience is that we know what they're going through, or that they matter to the entire team, and not just you, Lance, because the fact is they're going to talk to potentially 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 8 other people, depending on how your organization flows. And even if you don't have a big team and it's just you, that technology will allow you to remember what matters to them or what's going on in their world.
It absolutely does. Yes.
Yeah. How about in marketing? Anything in technology right now that's important in your marketing plan?
Well, especially during COVID, we immediately switched and made up materials that we're going to make sure that when you have a listing experience with us, that we can do the entire process virtually. We sold several homes without the client ever touching foot in the property. And so we utilized technology to make that happen. We used 3D imaging. We did virtual staging when it was needed. We did showings online, and we even did open houses online with our buyer agent going through the home and showing the experience, walking them through. So as much as we were able to do that during the COVID period, especially in the beginning when we had to stay at home, we tried to utilize technology as best as possible. And our marketing efforts, we have now a social media person, but that's her one thing. She's on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter all day long, every day, making different posts and staying engaged. And it's not about real estate. It's that whole 80-20 rule. She's talking 80% about day-to-day activities or events, and she's talking 20% about the real estate market. And we needed one person to handle that, because with the amount of listings that we do have, we need to make sure that we're getting them showcased and exposed to as many people as possible.
Awesome. Peter, anything or any way that you're utilizing technology in your listing presentations, your marketing, your customer experience? Obviously, you're using video, and that's changed the flow of even the presentation. Anything else that we should be aware of?
No, we're super old school on that. We are all about what's important to you, what makes it a 10, what makes it a 10 plus. Tell me more about that. How does ultimately benefit you and your family? It's really more of a dialogue around their value system and the problem that we need to solve, and getting them really emotionally connected to working with us and connecting our service with whatever the pain is that we're going to solve for them. It's super low tech.
All right.
Piece of paper.
Now, one other question I have for both of you, because this is come up a lot amongst our agents. You finally get that listing. How do you leverage a listing such that you can get additional leads, whether they be buyer leads or hopefully future seller leads? What are you doing once the listing is taken to continue to build your business?
Lance, I'm sure you have a super amazing process. This is another place that we're really weak, so I'm going to go first. The only thing that we'll do is we do online lead generation through Boomtown is the platform we use, like Sync, or I'm sure people are using similar ones. Doesn't matter. It could be Facebook leads through Command. When we take a listing, we'll just reverse search through all those leads and see which ones of those leads are a match for that listing, and we'll reach out to those buyers. Besides that, and your sign calls, we're terrible at this. So Lance, tell us how to do it.
Well, we're doing the same thing that you are. We're reverse prospecting, and then we're also doing circle prospecting around all of our listings that do get sold very quickly. There's one that just happened yesterday. It got executed yesterday, but in the span of 3 days, there was 41 offers and over 70 showings for that one particular property. So we immediately got the marketing in there and started doing social media to tell everybody about, hey, this neighborhood is really hot. Are you looking to go in this area? It's very affordable, and it's a very hot area that a lot of people want to see. We also take all of those offers that we got and then show them to all the surrounding neighbors to say, hey, we have all these buyers that are looking to move into this neighborhood. Do you know of anybody? Because here's all these buyers that want to live here, and we don't have enough homes for them. Would you like to sell and maybe move someplace else? So that happens a lot. We're using social media quite a bit, and we're doing the best that we can despite being able to do that in person.
Yeah. When you say you're using social media, what does that look like? Is it actually like a paid for sponsored ad with the home saying 40 offers received? Are you looking to sell? Are you getting that specific and that forward?
We are getting that specific and that forward, yes. And we also, we utilize SmartZip for us, which is a campaign that goes after that type of client that's looking for that type of home. So we're very strategic, and we send out a lot of postcards in those neighborhoods or in that zip code to make sure that we expose that home.
Awesome. Your business that's coming from that seller marketing or that seller ad, buyer business, Lance, listing business, what does that look like?
So right this second, we're getting significantly more buyer leads than listing leads, that's for sure. Just this month, we've gotten 160 buyer leads and 125 listing leads, versus last year, we had 223 listing leads versus 169 buyer leads just for this month. And it obviously it's month to date, but it's been significant. What I love though is our listing agents during the pandemic, when they didn't have a whole lot of consultations to go on, we told them that whoever's going to be the specialist is going to be the one that's going to win those listings when the business starts coming back. So hone in your skills. And what I love is a year ago, from appointment kept to agreement signed, that was at 36.1%, which is really horrible. And right today, we're at 61.3%.
Wow.
So they're not going on the same amount of listings, but we're doing just as much listings. We're getting just as many listings as we did a year ago with less appointments.
Yep, conversion. I'm gonna bring up a few questions for you guys as we head towards the top of the hour, and then I'm gonna thank you as well. But one of the ones that came up when you said circle prospecting, are you still door knocking? Are you calling? Are you mailing? What type are you doing? Peter?
We do calls and we do door knocking, which actually is pretty well received. As long as you step backwards when you open the door, you're pretty much fine.
Okay. And Lance, what are you doing right now around circle prospecting? I know postcards is a type of circle prospecting that you absolutely are doing. What else are you doing?
And we're doing the phone calls. We're doing the reverse prospecting via phone calls. And we're not able quite yet to do in-person door knocking. The pandemic's still, the virus is still pretty high here in Houston, but it's definitely coming down. So we're hoping to get back to being door to door pretty soon.
Got it. Awesome. And those calls, you're getting those numbers from where?
I will get the name. I'm sorry.
Where are you getting your phone numbers from?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the app that we use. I will get that and get that to you, Chris.
Okay, no worries. Peter, do you know off the top of your head?
Mojo, Vulcan are usually the two go-to.
Awesome.
Vulcan's better, but it's expensive.
Yeah, I agreed. Another question that came up in your listing presentation, both of you have streamlined it, right? Both of you have made it more about them, less about, right, or them in the market. Seller net sheet, are you doing those? Is that a second conversation? Do you go in with it ready? What does that look like in your world, Peter?
Yeah, our intention is to take the listing every single time. We don't two-step listings. Sometimes you have to with luxury, but we take about 80% of our listings, of the listing appointments. And one of the things that we do is we do the net sheet, and we prepare the net sheet ahead of time. And we have two copies of it. One of it with our average list to sell ratio versus whomever we may be competing with, and we plug in their average listing to sale ratio so that consumers understand when everything else is held equal, our marketing and our negotiating nets them a higher price, higher proceeds, I should say.
Just one pause. So guys, what's interesting is what Peter's done is taken that, and we've talked about that, right? List to sales price ratio. But Peter's actually put that or incorporated into the seller net sheet, as opposed to starting the net sheet at sales price equals X. It's list price to sales price ratio, and then the net sheet. It actually pushes that conversation back into the negotiation again when they get to a net sheet. Okay, keep going, Peter.
That's it. That's how we use it.
Awesome. So everybody, you're walking into each one of those listing presentations with the net sheet and the average list price to sales price ratio. How about you, Lance?
We do the exact same thing. We have a one piece of paper. It's actually a card. If you go to tlgshares.com, you'll be able to see the card that we use. But it is a net sheet, and we do it exactly the same way that Peter does it. And we actually fill it out right there along with the client, and then we have them initial it so that we have verification that they truly know what they're going to do and where we feel like they should be listed at, where they're saying that they're going to list at. And then we do sometimes give them a 2-week window. We'll try it your way for 2 weeks. However, this is what we feel is where you should be at, and we're going to write in what we say. So
love that. Leslie, any other questions that came in through the chat that need to be answered before we go?
No, you guys did a really great job of covering it. Most of it was around circle prospecting, pricing. So you guys knocked it out of the park.
Guys, thank you so much for being willing to take an hour out of your schedule. You guys run incredible businesses, so every hour matters. And you being willing to share with a group of agents across all different places in their business is a real win. I just want to go back to where we started. You guys run abnormal businesses, which means just incredible businesses. But as you've seen over the last hour, these are normal guys, and I love making that connection. You guys are both humble. You both show up and are willing to share your wins and your losses and what works and what doesn't. And I just appreciate you being willing to spend an hour with our group. And just as a quick recap, anyone that has clients headed to Houston, well, you know where they should be going. Lance, there's no one better. We have sent you guys referrals, and you've taken care of them. You'd think that they were the only client in your world. So thanks for always being such a great referral source. And Peter, anyone that has in our network has someone going to go into Cincinnati, please, right? We'll make sure
Ohio's a flyover state, guys. So if you don't know where Dayton or Columbus is or Cleveland, just email me and I'll put you in touch with the right people. I get it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for being awesome for us. And thanks everyone for being on the call.
Thanks for having us, Chris.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. And for those of you who want to join us for our next Master Series event, I just dropped the link in. We are preparing for 2021 with an amazing, powerful hour with Joseph Klosik on business planning and preparing to rock 2021. So join us September 23rd for that. Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Peter. We appreciate your time and have a powerful day.
Take care.